Hey guys, Karuvium here, and if you don't know me, I've been main sword since Season 1. I've been swinging this thing around since the early days through all the buffs, nerfs, and most recently, as you might have heard, a total sword overhaul. Sword doesn't have a lot of videos out there, and the ones you can find usually aren't very informative or are pretty outdated at this point. So I put this together to help you guys push through that initial learning curve and have fun with this weapon. And trust me, it's a lot of fun to use. As of the mid-season 7.6 update, they cranked up the damage on both the primary and secondary swings to its pre-nerf glory, boosted the lunge range, but here's the big caveat. They added a 40-degree rotation limit to the lunge attack. Now if you played sword before, this is probably the part you're having trouble getting used to, but I promise it's not quite as bad as it first seemed. It just means this weapon requires a little more precision than before. So without further ado, let's break down the core concepts and techniques you need to master sword on the light class. Let's start with positioning. This is the single most important skill for sword and possibly in this game in general. Good positioning lets you control the engagement, and with your 150 health and no range options, bad positioning gets you melted before you even attack. The first part is finding angles where you have advantage, cover, but still have an optimal view of the objective in your team. You're going to want to use cover to mask any approach you plan to make. Goo Grenade is incredibly useful for this, as we'll get into later. Now this next thing is crucial not just for sword, but for light in general. When you engage, your first thought should not just be where the enemy is, but how do I escape? Let's analyze this ranked clip. I come up here and see the guy in the far corner, I see another guy, and then a third guy reviving in the doorway. I go for the kill here, and I see the other guy coming around the corner knowing he has to be low because of the revive. I see the third guy, but I can't take him because I would have to close distance I can at the moment, so I go in this. The sword is an absolute monster when it comes to punishing the bad position of enemies, and this is where most of your value is going to come from. Even with the 40-degree clamp, if you align your crosshair to where you're going to be before you lunge and wait to line up the perfect attack, you can sometimes even pierce through multiple targets in one lunge, giving your team a massive advantage, even if you have to escape afterwards. You can see how this serves to distract the enemy and gets them low so that my teammates can clean up and get the assists. Remember, play your life. Don't attack just because someone is in range. Engage only if you have a way out or if you're sure you can secure a kill. Keep a close eye on which directions other contestants are pointed and facing throughout the fight so you don't get crossfired. Control, capitalize, and escape. Now let's get into our first technique, the sword slide. This is a technique I don't see people doing very often, but you absolutely should be using this if you're on sword. This is your primary way to cover ground quickly. We're going to come directly out of a sword lunge into a slide to gain extra distance and speed without burning through that dash charge. This is important because you want to save those dashes when you need them. Those are your lifeline. If you time it right, you'll keep the momentum from the lunge carrying over into the slide, and this will transport you across the map fairly quickly. We can utilize this even further in combat by rapidly changing directions of the slide inputs. That means you can rotate beyond the 40-degree limit faster than your opponent might expect. Technique number 2 you need to know for sword is the super dash. This is all about combining your lunge with the dash technique for even more range and versatility if you use it correctly. There are 2 main variations. The first is the pre-lunge dash. You hit dash before releasing the lunge. This lets you close a big gap instantly, then deliver the lunge at closer range with very little reaction time to your target. The second is the post-lunge dash. This is a little tricky to get right, but if you do, you can carry your hitbox into that lunge. Lunge first, then dash right after. This is a perfect technique for when you miss or fall short on your shot. Dash immediately to chase them down and get that hit before your hitbox ends. The This last one's called a jump strike, and it's a direct counter to the way lunge forces you to move. Sometimes you're stuck because your primary attack is slow and weak and gets you killed, but missing a lunge puts you in range of an easy shot. Here's the solution. When you charge up lunge and jump right before releasing, you cancel out the forward dash but still get lunge's damage. This is excellent to use on platforms or elevated surfaces where you can land a hit without throwing yourself off the edge. Now let's get to rules of engagement. Sword is aggressive, but not brainless. This weapon requires high levels of situational awareness and game sense to play competitively. You'll have to think every time before engaging. The first rule we've already discussed. Always know your escape route before you go in. Keep at least one dash charge in your pocket for that escape. If you burn all your movement on the entry for trying to secure a kill, you're relying on the fact that your enemy will make mistakes, and that won't hold up in ranked play. Rule number 2 is a mistake I see people making often on Sword. Your primary attack should be the last resort. The primary swing has a good radius for securing a hit, but it's slow, does low damage, and puts you in danger. Use it to finish off someone at low health, or part of a combo, and for pretty much no other reasons. Now when you engage, one of two things is going to happen. First scenario is you're going to lunge through the enemy, landing on the other side of it. In this instance, you're going to want to watch the reaction speed of your opponent. Wait until they're turning around to release your next lunge to try to break their camera view. Or if they get some damage in on you, this would be the ideal time to take that escape route we planned. The second scenario is your lunge lands you in melee range of the person you're attacking. This is ideal, and at this point you're going to want to perform one of 3 sword combos depending on what class you're up against. Combos are not as important as they used to be, as lunge is more difficult to predict. But when you do get into that perfect range, these will help you win those fights. Light is the easiest. We're going to follow our lunge with an immediate quick melee. This is nearly an instant kill. Medium is a little more difficult to pull off and situational. We're going to do lunge and then 2 swings. And heavy is going to be lunge and 3 swings. But more realistically, this gives them too much time to react, and you're better off hitting them with 3 lunges in my experience. Finally, let's talk about loadouts. The way I see it, Sword has a few viable loadouts. First, Vanishing Bomb is almost mandatory, unless of course you're using Invisibility Cloak, but I don't really recommend that. Evasive Dash is going to be your most competitive pick here, with some arguments to be made for Grappling Hook. Vanishing Bomb is going to be invaluable for closing distance, disengaging, or repositioning in the middle of a fight. Sometimes you just have to take those flanks, and that's really the best way to do it. The second gadget I would recommend is Goo Grenade. This blocks off areas so you can retreat, lets you fortify cash outs, create cover to close distance safely, or you can climb up to upper floors you couldn't normally reach. For the third slot, this one's optional. Gateway is my personal go-to. I think it's unmatched for repositioning and helps your team move quickly. You can get into angles the team won't expect and quickly get back to a cash out if you get stuck chasing someone. Sometimes you can pull off some tricky moves that they don't expect. If your team is playing tight and coordinated, Healing Infuser also might be a great pick. It lets you contribute to the long range fights where you can't really get close and keeps your teammates alive, which is never a bad thing. Sonar Grenade is also another good reserve pick for stopping flanks or catching ambushes early. If the team has been catching you off guard a lot, or if you need that extra edge, this can be a great switch up. So that's my breakdown of how to play Sword competitively. In summary, position yourself well, use slide and dash techniques to extend your reach and get out of harm's way, use jump strike to control your movement, and always have an escape plan. Sword is arguably one of the more difficult weapons to get into in this game, but spend a little bit of time mastering these techniques and you'll notice your consistency and survivability skyrocket. I hope this helps you guys get some more out of this weapon. I'm Peruvian, thanks for watching. If you made it this far in the video, go hit that like and subscribe for me. It helps tremendously to get this channel to grow. And I'll see you guys in the arena.